She, her face flushed, dodged Henry's embrace, trying to stay away from the lush bed, fearing that once on it, she would no longer be able to resist the passion of the king. For some time, Henry VIII refrained from trying to seduce the innocence of Anne Boleyn because he believed that they would soon marry. However, months passed, and the permission to annul the marriage with Catherine of Aragon was not received, and Henry again began to be absorbed in passion. "Please stop." Anna avoided the king's embrace and moved to a safe distance. "Our personal meetings are becoming risky. Remember that I am your future wife, but the wedding has not taken place yet." "Anna, you have exhausted me." Henry groaned. "I love you, and my strength is exhausted from waiting." "In that case, I need to make a trip to Hever. All this happening is going wrong. There must be a temporary distance between you and me," said Anne Boleyn. She could see Henry's chest heaving, she could hear his heavy breathing, and she was sure of the correctness of her decision. Now they need this distance. If she succumbs to weakness, then probably the fate of her sister Mary Boleyn awaits her. If she gives the king what he wants, then he will calm down and maybe even accept that he will not be able to annul the marriage with Catherine. And if the annulment happens, then Henry can find a young wife among the overseas princesses. No, intimacy between them is not acceptable. The crown of England is at stake. When Anna was in Hever, she tirelessly wrote letters to Henry every day. Reading his answers, she was well aware that the separation further inflames his passion, and it became clear to her that he would be even more insistent to rush the consideration of the annulment of the marriage. Soon Maria and her children appeared in the family castle of the Boleyns. The meeting of the sisters was cold. Anna felt that Mary disapproved of her accession. It seemed to her that Maria was jealous. At one point, when they were alone, Maria mockingly threw Anna. It was so funny to hear at court how Henry lamented that his marriage was invalid because of his late brother's wife. "What's so funny?" Anna interrupted sharply. "Think about it, sister." Maria continued the mockery. "The king feels sin in marriage with his brother's wife, calls it incest, but at the same time wants to marry the sister of his former lover." Anna felt a chill. The thought hadn't crossed her mind. Based on Mary's logic, her future marriage to Henry could also be called incest, especially considering that Maria gave birth to a daughter, Catherine, too similar to the king. "But you weren't the king's wife." Anna objected. "It is unlikely that our marriage will be considered incest. Don't worry about me. I haven't expressed my thoughts to anyone but you." Maria answered, "You better worry about the fact that such thoughts may arise not only for me. Perhaps one day the king will get tired of your presence, just as he got tired of Catherine, and he will have a reason to break off this marriage." Anne Boleyn silently accepted her sister's words, realizing that it was better to shut up on this topic and not bring it up again. She believed that Henry genuinely loved her and could not allow him to look for an excuse to get rid of her. In the spring of 1528, Anne Boleyn arrived in Greenwich, but her stay there was brief. In the summer of the same year, the country was gripped by a hell of chaos. England was faced with a terrible sweating fever. This mysterious disease could take a person's life in just a few hours from the moment of infection, which caused panic in the country. During this period, Henry VIII, taking with him a limited number of his subjects, as well as Anne Boleyn and his wife and daughter, moved to Waltham. It happened after one of Boleyn's maids fell ill with sweating, and the king ordered Anna to leave for another of his estates to avoid infection, but of course without his presence because he feared for his health. After arriving at a new place, Anna discovered that there were infected people among the people and decided to warn Heinrich, telling him that she was going back to Hever. Despite the joy of meeting Anna, her parents, fearing for the possible spread of the disease, punished her to stay in a separate room and not go out. However, these measures did not help. Perhaps Anna still brought an infection with her, or the sweating has spread to Hever. First, Anna herself got sick, and then her father. They were lucky; they managed to cope with the disease. However, Mary Boleyn's husband, William Carey, who also contracted sweating fever, did not survive. Contemplating her sobbing sister, Anna was struck by how their father reacted to what was happening. He ordered Maria and her children to leave the house and go to her husband's parents, about whom she knew little. Involuntarily, Anne Boleyn came up with the idea that her father shows kindness to his children only when they benefit him. Mary Boleyn, already a widow of almost 30 years with children, was no longer of value to Thomas Boleyn, and he showed no interest in her financial difficulties. This discovery was unpleasant. It seemed that if Anna was in a difficult situation, her father would not help her. After looking appraisingly at her father, Anne Boleyn went to her room and began writing a letter to the king. A few days later, Thomas Boleyn received a letter from the sovereign in which he recommended that he support Mary and support her. "Why should I support her at my own expense?" Thomas was indignant. "Anna, it's not my responsibility, but now I have to do it because of you." Seeing that her father's attitude towards Maria had become even worse, Anna sat down again to write a letter to Henry. This time she asked him to appoint an allowance for her sister, and the king agreed. Mary Boleyn received a small annual pension of £100, about as much as her deceased husband received. Following the letter on the appointment of Mary Boleyn's pension came a decree that Henry allowed Anne Boleyn to take custody of her nephew. Given that Carrie left a lot of debts, it was beneficial for Mary that Anna financially supported her son with the help of the king. At the end of the sweating fever epidemic, Henry invited Anne Boleyn to Greenwich and announced that her brother George had become a gentleman in his private chambers. The Boleyn family enjoyed the privileges and generosity that came from the enamored Henry. They had not yet imagined that such passionate love could turn into a fierce, hateful feeling.